You know what's one thing I love about this sport? The fact that no one is ever happy. Right now we are in 2025 and the year still has long ways to go, yet here I am talking about the 2027 F1 season, and normally I wouldn't talk about things like this because I mean, come on, it's not that hard to know why. It's gonna date the video horribly and nothing in here will age well in likely just a couple of months time, but I don't care. This has to do with Ferrari, and as you guys know, if it involves Ferrari, I will be there. So in case you're out of the loop, it was reported a couple days ago that Charles Leclerc's group has been in talks with other teams about a possible transfer. Now this is monumental levels of huge since Charles has been a Ferrari boy for literally all of his career. He has declared many times that he will win the title with them and bring glory back to the team. However, as you may have guessed, that has not gone to plan, and I don't know how he hasn't killed himself yet. He gets faced with an abundance of engine DNFs, car failures, strategy failures, self-inflicted crashes due to the team's unrealistic pressures on him. I mean, my goodness me. To the unsuspecting fan, they would think Charles is this bottle job driver who's crazy overrated, but anyone saying that simply doesn't understand how horrible his luck is, and almost all of it is from Ferrari themselves. I mean, I don't think it's crazy to say that Leclerc is a Verstappen level driver in the sense that you give him a car that is capable of winning and he will disappear at the front. 2022 is evidence of this because in that first half of the season before Mercedes changed the rules, Leclerc would often lead these races by some margin before his engine would blow up or his team fucked him anally with no lube. In Spain, he was leading by a huge gap and then his engine blew up. At Monaco, he was leading before the team ruined his strategy. In Baku, he was leading, then his engine blew up. In Britain, he got lap 1 damage and the team messed things up. In France, the team kept him out there on ancient tires, telling him to keep pushing all the way, which led to the crash. And in Hungary, the team put him on the worst tires known to man that, by the way, not a single other team even touched with a 10,000 mile pole. That is 6 races nearly in a row where the team fucked him over in a car that was the closest opportunity for him to win the title. This is not even mentioning moments from 2019, 2020, 2021, 2023, 2024, and finally this year. Charles Leclerc has shown Ferrari nothing but loyalty and trust, and the team has repaid him in broken cars and shit strategies. It's no wonder that when this news broke of Charles finally wanting to leave Ferrari potentially broke, that people immediately got to speculating and wishing. So here I am telling you where Charles should go for 2027, not 2026 by the way, since he is still contracted. So go join the Discord to speculate with us and subscribe if you're new if you want the best for Charles. So enough yapping and let's get to quacking.
A good weather for a race, but especially for a talk.
So before I mention his options, let's first look at Ferrari and see if the move is even necessary, which I know, I just ran it on about how it is, but the issues with Ferrari is all leadership. It's the team principals who try to take too much power or reinforce the power with their stupidity, along with the actual guys in power who don't care about progress, innovation, winning, perception, history, you get the gist. All they care about is the brand and what's best for the brand, what's Ferrari like, but like, it's not working. When I think Ferrari, I think winning and competence, which, oh boy are we so far from that. But let's say magically in 2026, Ferrari goes through a leadership change and mostly everything is fixed. Should Charles still leave? Well, I already made a video like this a couple of weeks ago, so go check that out. But basically, I have no clue, because like I said, it's all leadership, but if we're playing fantasy and that changes, then I think Charles should stay. While there have essentially been zero rumors for how Ferrari will perform in the next era of F1, it's kind of dumb to assume the team will be ass or even midfield. The 2026 cars are similar to the previous regulation of cars, and in that era, it was Mercedes as the fastest with Ferrari challenging here and there. Ferrari have a good understanding of the engines and the basics of the style of car, so they will at least still be at the forefront. But through the little rumors there have been of the team in the new era, they do seem positive with some drawbacks. The engine seems to be pretty dang fast and exceeding all expectations, so great. What's the drawback? Can you guess? It's pretty unreliable according to the reports, which leaves the engine as a high risk, high reward type. However, I think that's stupid because the high risk, high reward is literally 25 points or 0. Like, when is that ever worth it, man? This isn't the 80s anymore. But no matter, there is still time to sort out the reliability, so time will only tell. However, if Charles stays with the team for 26 and beyond, I don't think that he will find himself in the midfield or the trenches again like in 2020. But of course, there is still the issue of leadership and management side of things, which continue to buttfuck Charles, all leading to his options in 2027 should he leave. The 3 options that have been reported are McLaren, Aston Martin, and Mercedes. All 3 teams have big buzz around them since McLaren are currently leading the field as we know. Mercedes supposedly have the best engine, which seems to be the most important part in this new period, and Aston are an upcoming team with new brilliant minds joining every year, along with the great Honda engine supposedly. So let us start by discussing McLaren and saying how this option is looking for Charles. Now a lot of people might be saying, hell yeah, go for it Charles, and this is because McLaren are leading the standings right now, have the best car by a country mile, and have many great engineers at the team. And despite this move basically being Charles going to Madrid from Barca, people wouldn't be as opposed to it as that, since a lot of people just want to see Charles win a title no matter what it takes. And don't get me wrong, I think this move could be very good for Charles for reasons listed previously. However, there are serious considerations that must be taken into account. For starters, last year and this year have shown to us that despite the team having the fastest car and winning the title, there is so much mismanagement present, and this is an issue that can't be resolved quickly. Now, albeit it's nowhere near the levels of Ferrari, but there could still come a moment where Charles is leading comfortably and then the team messes up his stop or strategy, which takes the win from him. Of course, this could happen anywhere at any team, but more so McLaren, since again, have you been watching this season and last? However, I would like to come in with a rebuttal to my own statement by saying that the issues we see this year between Oscar and Lando likely wouldn't happen in 2027 with Leclerc and Lando or Leclerc and Piastri. And I say this because, let's be reasonable folks, Charles is the better driver than the two of them. The problem right now at McLaren is that Piastri and Norris are so similar pace-wise that they often are close to each other in the races, which leads to the whole strategy debate. Charles, and I'm being respectful here, wouldn't allow Lando or Oscar to be near him in the races. Of course, everybody has off days, but if they were teammates, I would expect the head-to-head to be 16-8 at the maximum. So the idea that papaya rules could get in the way of Charles is kind of not really a thing, I would imagine. However, there is yet another rebuttal to this I have. We have only ever seen Charles at Ferrari in a Ferrari engine car. How would he fare in a Mercedes engine car? We have seen drivers fail to adjust after moving between engine concept cars, and perhaps Charles can't fall victim to this. Plus, there is also the consideration of, will the car even be good? Because sure, McLaren are mighty fast right now in this era, but next era is not guaranteed to be the same. Historically, McLaren suck ass in the transition years, since you look at years like 2009, 2017, 2022, and it doesn't really inspire hope now, does it? Of course, this is a new McLaren team, but what I'm saying is, nothing is guaranteed, and McLaren, for all we know, can once again fall to the upper midfield, especially if the Mercedes team can get a hold over their car concepts again. So my verdict with McLaren and Charles is to proceed with caution, since really good things can come out of this, along with the potential for really mid things to instead be the reality. Now, perhaps the most interesting team from this whole discussion recently is Aston Martin. I say this because looking at Aston right now, you would have to be a madman if you wanted to race for that team right now. Every week, they're either 19th or 20th, or grabbing big points in P5 and P7. The team has no real destination, since this team just seems to go nowhere other than backwards. But what if I were to tell you things are not as they seem? While Aston, yes, are very shit right now and extremely undesirable, Papa Stroll knows this, and unlike his ugly ass son, he cares about the racing somewhat and is pouring money to try and find better minds at the team, along with improving their facilities. The culmination of this was the hiring of Adrian Newey, and Newey, as we know, is basically God when it comes to F1 car designs. Even as shittiest of cars are upper midfield, and in 2026, we will get a taste of Newey at Aston. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that Aston will suddenly rise to the front and win titles, but I will say that Aston will see drastic improvement. Plus, there are the rumors with the Honda engine being a good one, which makes sense given their work on the 2021 engine, and you know what? Things are looking very bright right now. Plus, Aston are about to enter a transition period, since you have Alonso going on record saying how he is very near to his final year in the sport. Alonso is 44, and he recently said that if 2026 isn't good, he will retire, but if they are good, he will continue. However, I say he's retiring in 2026 anyways. The guy is going to be 45 years old next year. For context, if he retires at 45, he'll be 1 year younger than Fangio when he retired at 46. Keep in mind, Fangio was considered relatively young in the 50s, plus he was racing against farmers and plumbers. The talent in F1 has changed dramatically, so the fact that Alonso has made it this far is very, very crazy, but it will reach its end in 2026. His new talent is knocking every single day. And once Alonso is gone, then what? They're not going to have a good driver anymore, since what? Do we expect Lance to lead the team? Hell no. There are many options like Drugovich or Crawford, but if Aston wants to contend immediately and build their car and team around one guy, Charles is the very obvious choice. Obviously, the issue with this move is the fact that in 2027, he won't hop in the car and win titles immediately, and hell, I wouldn't be surprised if 28 was the same. However, onwards could be a very different story, since surely Aston would have the resources to finally debut a car capable of winning big things. If Honda is so great and Aston have a clear development plan similar to McLaren, McLarens, I don't see why they wouldn't have a good car and even one capable of winning titles for 2029 and beyond. There is the other issue with how Charles would be in his early 30s at this point, and maybe he won't want to wait that long. However, after a stint at Ferrari, I'd be surprised if he was impatient of all people. So if Charles wants to guarantee a team to be centered around him and ready themselves to win titles with him in mind, then Aston is one hell of an option. Obviously, there is Lance as his teammate, which basically means he's on his own, but at least the team will be all him, so no need to deal with teammates wanting the car understeery or just being flat out disappointing. And finally, we have the last team to discuss, Mercedes. Now, as we may know by now, considering they haven't shut the hell up all this time, Mercedes will at the very least have a car capable of winning races consistently for next year. All the stars seem to point in that direction, which makes Merc a bit of a safe option. Plus, they have generally the best engine in terms of balance between reliability and power, especially in the previous regulation, so yeah, no real big drawbacks here. And honestly, this section is going to be short since they don't have mismanagement issues like McLaren does, or at least to the same extent. They don't have the Stroll issue or the current midfield status of Aston. Really, they seem to be set in all departments for 2026, but what if I were to say that is the issue? There is this expectation of Merc to return at the forefront for next year, but what if they disappoint? What if Red Bull and Ford in their silence debut a car no one expected and win everything again? What if McLaren translate their current dominance to next year? What if the Ferrari car is a rocket ship and blast off in the distance? What if that engine is good, but Mercedes dropped the ball in the car design once again? Well, I'm here to refute that statement again because this new car we're getting is again similar to the old ones. Mercedes love their barge boards and intricate flat floor designs, and they can return to that glory again. So great, Merc have a good car, a good engine, a competent team. Really, are there any drawbacks at all? Yes, my child, there are. Toto Wolff has commitment issues as we see with George and in the past with Lewis and Valtteri. He doesn't like giving his drivers long contracts because he likes to keep things open even when they are winning for Mercedes. So basically at Merc, Charles is going to experience the opposite of what he would at Aston since the team won't center on him. They would be willing to drop him at a moment's notice should someone they deem better comes along. That may not be the loyalty that Charles would want from his team despite the good car and performance, and that unnecessary pressure could just lead him back around to his Ferrari days should he go for them in 2027. So the verdict with this one is, it depends. Does Charles think he is good enough to win in that team, especially if George or a more experienced Kimi is his teammate? Or would Charles prefer to have no competition from his teammate and instead prefer a classic number 1 and number 2 driver role? So after looking at all 3 teams, I'm pretty sure my answer is obvious for where he should go in 2027, and it's one I did not expect at first. In my opinion, should Charles Leclerc leave Ferrari in 2027, I think Aston Martin is not only the safest option out there, but also potentially the most worthwhile one. Because even if he doesn't win titles with them, he can guarantee that the team will be his own and have most decisions center on him, similar to Max at Red Bull. And if they do build a car eventually to win a title, then the cards will fall perfectly aligned for him to win title after title after title, similar to, again, Max. McLaren and Mercedes, while they may offer great cars off the bat, wouldn't allow Charles to truly be the driver at McLaren and Mercedes. When we think of Red Bull currently, we all think of Max, since Max is basically Red Bull at this point, which has gotten him lots of success. The same thing could potentially be in store for Charles at Aston, even if he doesn't win titles with them. Plus, he can guarantee that the car will be good with Newey at the team, along with guys like Enrico Cardile and many Mercedes staff like Andy Cowell. So if Charles wants to just win and get it over with, go join McLaren or more preferably Mercedes. But if Charles wants to build his own team, his own dynasty, then Aston is the obvious choice. It will take time, but Ferrari proved he has patience. So once again, Charles Leclerc to Aston Martin for 2027 should he leave Ferrari. So those are my predictions for Leclerc in 2027. No matter what happens, we all at least need to come in agreement and say that Charles is one of the most disrespected drivers of all time. The fact that this guy only has 8 wins from like 30 something poles is a disgrace. If Ferrari were a serious team, Charles would at the very least have 12 plus wins and at least properly contended for the title. Wherever Charles goes for 2027 and beyond, if he does leave Ferrari, all we could hope for is that the team not throw his talent to waste and finally give him a car that is capable of winning the title. Anyways, I want to give a quick shout out to all members of the flock for the continued support, and make sure to join if you will cool benefits as well as just helping me out. Anyways, if you enjoyed today's video, make sure you leave a like and subscribe since it really helps me out. Make sure to let me know in the comments what you think of this, and as always, have an amazing day.
Good weather for the duck.